Walk down any supermarket aisle and you will count dozens of brands competing for your attention. Different names, different packaging, different price points. It looks like fierce competition. But trace the ownership behind those labels and the picture collapses. Hundreds of products you buy every week funnel back to roughly 10 parent corporations. Nestle alone controls more than 2,000 brands. The question is not which product to choose. It is whether real choice ever existed at all. To understand who actually owns your favorite brands, you have to follow the money behind the shelf. Behind each familiar label on the shelf lies a network of ownership that is far less diverse than it appears. The colorful variety of brands, from breakfast cereals and bottled water to chocolate bars and instant noodles, often leads back to just a handful of multinational parent companies: Nestle, Unilever, PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, Mondelez, Mars, and Kraft Heinz each control dozens, sometimes hundreds of separate brands that seem to compete head-to-head in every aisle. A closer look at public brand portfolios and annual reports reveals the true structure. Nestle, for instance, manages more than 2,000 brands worldwide, from Nescafé and Kit Kat to Maggi and Perrier. PepsiCo's reach spans snacks like Lay's and Doritos, drinks like Gatorade and Mountain Dew, and even oatmeal under the Quaker name. Coca-Cola's portfolio stretches well beyond its flagship soda, encompassing Sprite, Minute Maid, Dasani, and regional favorites like Innocent and Ciel. Each of these corporations owns brands that cater to different tastes, price points, and even local cultures, but the decision-making authority sits with the parent company. Ownership is mapped through company filings and financial disclosures. Brands like Kit Kat are owned by Nestle globally, but appear under Hershey in the United States through a licensing deal. PepsiCo's Frito-Lay division holds exclusive rights to snack brands in North America, while its beverages are distributed through independent bottlers who do not own the brands themselves. Unilever's food portfolio, though smaller, includes icons like Ben & Jerry's, Knorr, and Hellmann's, with many products operating as subsidiaries or joint ventures. What looks like a crowded marketplace is, in reality, a web of interconnected ownership. The core question shifts from how many brands are on the shelf to how many decision-makers sit at the top. The same handful of corporations can set strategies, allocate budgets, and shape the market behind dozens of seemingly independent brands. This structural reality changes how competition, innovation, and even consumer choice play out across the global food industry. The supermarket shelf as we know it is the product of decades of corporate combination. The process began in the post-war era as food manufacturers sought to expand beyond their home markets and diversify their offerings. Early growth relied on acquiring regional brands and building national distribution. But by the late 20th century, the focus had shifted to mergers and acquisitions as the main engine of expansion. Between 1950 and 1999, a handful of companies built the foundations of today's food industry oligopoly, using horizontal deals to absorb rivals and vertical integration to control supply chains. By the end of the century, the largest 10 firms already held a majority of supermarket shelf space in many developed markets. The turn of the millennium brought a new wave of cross-category buying. Nestle's acquisition of Gerber in 2001, PepsiCo's purchase of Quaker Oats that same year, and the Kraft Heinz merger in 2015 are just a few examples of transactions that created conglomerates spanning snacks, beverages, dairy, and more. These deals were not just about adding new products. They also delivered access to established brands, shelf placements, and international distribution networks. Globalization made it possible for these companies to operate seamlessly across borders, absorbing local brands and adapting them to new markets while maintaining central control over strategy and investment. Rebranding and portfolio absorption have become standard practice. When a company acquires a new brand, it often retains the original name and packaging to preserve consumer loyalty. but the decision-making moves to the parent corporation. Over time, the distinction between once independent brands blurs. As product lines are merged, recipes are standardized, and marketing budgets are managed from a central office. The result is a marketplace that appears diverse on the surface but is shaped by a small group of decision-makers at the top. The current structure of the food and beverage market is not the outcome of a single event, but the cumulative result of thousands of deals, each one adding another layer to the corporate web. What consumers experience as variety is, in many cases, the visible legacy of decades of consolidation, an industrial process that has redefined the economics of food production, distribution, and choice on a global scale. Monopoly describes a market where a single company holds all the power, one firm, one set of rules. Oligopoly, on the other hand, is when a small number of large companies dominate, each with enough influence to shape the market but none with total control. In the food and beverage world, this means a handful of corporations can set prices, decide what products appear on shelves, and steer advertising strategies. Even though smaller players still exist on the margins, economists use tools like the four-firm concentration ratio, or CR4, to measure this power. If the top 4 companies in a market control more than half the sales, that market is considered highly concentrated. Another tool, the Herfindahl-Hirschman Index, or HHI, adds up the squared market shares of all firms to create a single number. Higher scores mean less real competition. Why does this matter? When a few companies hold most of the cards, they can negotiate harder with suppliers, influence which products get prime shelf space, and even shape what new items reach consumers. The variety on supermarket shelves often reflects the decisions of these few dominant firms, rather than the full range of consumer preferences. What appears as choice is often the output of market structure, not just individual demand. Walk down any supermarket aisle and the shelves appear to overflow with competing brands, each promising something different. Yet, behind the packaging, many of these products share the same parent company and often the same production facilities. Branding teams carefully design each label, logo, and advertising campaign to target a specific audience, creating the sense that shoppers are choosing between genuine rivals. For example, Nestlé's Nescafé and Starbucks instant coffees sit side by side, each with its own marketing message, but both feed revenue to the same corporate group through licensing agreements and shared supply chains. This strategy extends beyond just coffee. PepsiCo's Lay's, Doritos, and Ruffles are packaged and promoted as distinct snacks with separate commercials and social media campaigns. Yet all three are managed under the Frito-Lay division, which controls over half of the U.S. salty snack market. The illusion of choice is further amplified by segmenting brands to appeal to different price points or lifestyles: organic, premium, budget, or family size, while operational decisions, from sourcing ingredients to setting promotions, are made at the corporate level. Even niche or regional brands such as Maggi in India or Innocent in the UK are often part of a larger multinational's portfolio. These brands maintain unique identities to preserve local loyalty, but their back-end logistics, procurement, and even recipe development may be centralized. The result is a marketplace where the diversity on the shelf is engineered as much for perception as for actual competition. The abundance of options, carefully curated by a handful of conglomerates, shapes not only what consumers buy, but how they interpret their own choices. Securing a place on the supermarket shelf is the result of intense negotiation between manufacturers and retailers. Shelf access is not simply about having a product available. It is a form of market power that shapes what consumers see and buy. Large manufacturers like Nestlé and PepsiCo often negotiate national contracts that guarantee their products' prime locations at eye level or near checkout counters. These placements are not free. They are frequently secured through slotting fees, which can range from $5,000 to $50,000 per product per retailer for the most visible spots. For smaller brands, these costs can be prohibitive, narrowing their opportunities to reach shoppers on a national scale. Retailers use their bargaining position to extract promotional funding from suppliers. Trade promotion budgets, such as Kraft Heinz's annual allocation of $600 million, are directed toward in-store discounts, end-cap displays, and joint marketing campaigns. These deals determine which products are featured in weekly flyers, which receive price cuts, and which are highlighted on digital platforms. The result is that visibility inside the store is often a function of a brand's willingness and ability to invest in retail promotions, not just its popularity with consumers. Private label products have become another lever for retailers to strengthen their hand. With U.S. private label food sales exceeding $123 billion in 2020 and growing steadily, supermarkets can prioritize their own brands on shelves, further pressuring independent suppliers. As store brands expand into new categories, they compete directly with national brands for space and attention, giving retailers more flexibility in negotiations and the ability to substitute products when terms are unfavorable. Distribution contracts complete the picture. Large-scale agreements ensure that major brands reach thousands of stores efficiently, while smaller suppliers may struggle to secure access beyond local or regional chains. The combined effect of these commercial decisions is that consumer choice is shaped long before a product ever appears on the shelf, reflecting power dynamics between manufacturers and retailers as much as shopper demand. Nestlé's reach stretches across more than 2,000 brands, making it the largest food and beverage group in the world. This vast portfolio allows Nestlé to offer products at almost every price point, from luxury chocolates to budget instant noodles, all under a single corporate umbrella. Brands like Nescafé, Maggi, and Milo appear to compete in their own right, yet each one is managed through a centralized brand strategy that coordinates everything from procurement to product launches. The company's structure is designed so that a shopper moving from bottled water to coffee to pet food may encounter a dozen different labels, never realizing they all answer to the same boardroom. Unilever takes this model even further by spanning both food and household goods. Its food portfolio includes names such as Ben & Jerry's, Knorr, and Hellmann's, but these sit alongside personal care staples like Dove and Lifebuoy. The result is a web of familiar brands, each with its own identity, but all benefiting from shared resources and global distribution networks. This approach enables Unilever to adapt quickly to local tastes while keeping core decisions in London and Rotterdam. In Asia, the same logic applies. Milo's, a staple drink in countries like Malaysia and Singapore, is marketed with regional flavors and packaging, yet the ownership structure remains unchanged. Milo's strategy is set in Switzerland, and its profits flow to the same parent as Maggi or Kit Kat. Whether in bustling Bangkok supermarkets or small-town Indian grocers, the abundance of choices reflects a single corporate playbook. The sense of endless variety is real at the shelf, but the decision-making is tightly concentrated at the top. Coca-Cola's global presence is built on a foundation of regional adaptation and a complex network of bottling partners. Rather than managing every step in-house, the company relies on hundreds of independent bottlers, each holding exclusive rights to produce and distribute Coca-Cola products within their territories. This system allows Coca-Cola to respond quickly to local market needs, tailoring flavors, packaging, and even marketing campaigns to suit regional preferences. In Africa, a $1 billion investment with local bottlers aims to modernize production lines and expand cold chain logistics, while the sale of a majority stake in Coca-Cola Beverages, Africa to Coca-Cola HBC, consolidates operations across 14 countries. These moves give Coca-Cola both the scale to negotiate with global suppliers and the agility to adapt to local tastes and regulations. PepsiCo takes a different route, leveraging its dominance in both beverages and snacks to create cross-category strength. The company's Frito-Lay division controls about 60% of the United States salty snack market, making brands like Lay's, Doritos, and Cheetos household names. PepsiCo's distribution strategy pairs these snacks with its beverage lineup, using bundled promotions and shared delivery networks to maximize efficiency and shelf presence. In Latin America and India, PepsiCo offers combo packs, pairing chips with sodas at discounted prices to drive volume and build brand loyalty in markets sensitive to price and value. By aligning snack and drink deliveries, PepsiCo reduces logistics costs and deepens its reach into emerging markets, where distribution infrastructure is often fragmented. Both Coca-Cola and PepsiCo demonstrate that scale is not just about size, but about how a company adapts its structure to local conditions or combines product categories to reinforce its position. Whether through bottling partnerships or cross-category bundling, these strategies help the two giants maintain a stronghold over global beverage and snack shelves, shaping what consumers see and buy far beyond their home markets. Mondelez International demonstrates how global ownership can coexist with local brand loyalty. The company's portfolio includes familiar names like Cadbury, Oreo, and Milka, but also regional favorites such as Grenade in the UK. Mondelez's approach is to acquire established local brands and keep their original identity intact. Instead of folding these brands into a single, globalized template, Mondelez allows them to operate with a degree of independence. This means that a shopper in Germany might reach for a biscuit that feels uniquely local, even though the brand's ultimate decisions on production and strategy are made in Chicago. Local manufacturing hubs and targeted marketing campaigns help these brands maintain their connection with regional tastes and traditions, while benefiting from the scale and resources of a multinational parent. Mars Incorporated takes a different path, expanding its reach beyond confectionery into pet care. With household names like M&M's, Snickers, and Pedigree, Mars controls both the treats in the candy aisle and the products in the pet food section. This cross-sector footprint is rare. The company's research and development teams share insights between categories, enabling innovations that span from chocolate to animal nutrition. Mars's private ownership structure allows for long-term planning and investments that are less influenced by quarterly market pressures, supporting both stability and steady growth in diverse markets across North America and Europe. Kraft Heinz stands as a case study in mega-merger strategy. Formed by the 2015 combination of Kraft Foods and H.J. Heinz, the company manages an extensive lineup of processed foods, from ketchup and mayonnaise to cheese and snacks. The merger was designed to eliminate redundant product lines, streamline operations, and centralize decision-making. Today, Kraft Heinz's portfolio is managed through a unified governance structure, allowing for coordinated pricing, promotion, and innovation. This centralization can deliver efficiencies and cost savings, but it also concentrates control over what appears on grocery shelves. Across North America and Europe, the variety in different supermarket aisles often leads back to these same corporate parents. Whether it's a regional biscuit, a global chocolate bar, or a pantry staple, the underlying ownership points to a small group of companies whose strategies shape what consumers see, buy, and eat. Large food and beverage companies often point to efficiency as a key benefit of their scale. By operating across multiple categories and markets, these firms can lower production costs through economies of scale, streamlining manufacturing, sourcing ingredients in bulk, and running centralized logistics networks that serve thousands of retail locations. Their size allows them to invest heavily in research and development, supporting new product lines and responding quickly to shifting consumer trends. Advanced supply chains and technology platforms, which may be out of reach for smaller competitors, help these companies move products efficiently across continents and adapt to local regulations. Global reach also means access to emerging markets where building distribution from scratch would be difficult for independent brands. Supporters argue that these efficiencies can translate into lower prices, wider product availability, and faster innovation, especially in a world where food supply chains face constant pressure from inflation and changing demand. Concentrated ownership across brands and categories brings a set of concerns that reach beyond the surface of supermarket variety. When a small group of corporations manages most of the familiar products, rivalry between brands can weaken, even as the shelves remain crowded. For smaller businesses, breaking into the market becomes more challenging, as dominant players can negotiate better terms with retailers and secure prominent shelf placement, often through costly slotting fees or large promotional budgets. The abundance of packaging and marketing may suggest a wide range of options, but the reality is that many products trace back to the same decision makers, narrowing the field of truly independent choices. With fewer companies controlling so much of the supply, their influence can extend to pricing, product range, and even the direction of new product development. Consumer advocates and antitrust analysts raise questions about the long-term effects on innovation, affordability, and public health when marketing power is so heavily concentrated. Today, just 10 corporations shape the choices on billions of plates worldwide. As consolidation accelerates, efficiency and innovation collide with shrinking competition and rising barriers for new players. The future of what and how we consume is being negotiated at boardroom tables, not supermarket aisles. In the end, what looks like choice may demand a closer look. What do you see when you scan the shelves?